major crimes have been on a consistent decline over the last 8 years. What I want to note, in major crime record, is the lowest level in 25 in 2023, the year we just completed. But I know that the critical element is still a focus on homicides. And correct so, every life lost is a trauma to the entire society. Although it is of interest to note that via surveys, including our own survey, which we do, and the LAPOP survey says that Jamaica has one of the lowest crime victimization rate and of the highest homicide rate, because the killing is among gangsters. They, of course, don't give us any reason to relax. But it is worth noting, Mr. Speaker, as of November last year when we brought the force to out, I want to note this to my members, especially on this side. As of November 2023, we approached for the first time full establishment in the force. And we're able to bring in some additional vehicles, take them just to a point where we think they could be functionally effective. We find that in the 6-month period preceding November 23, since then, from November 23 to April 24, we have about a 24% fall in homicide rate. Now, I want to emphasize that, Mr. Speaker, because there's always ongoing dispute on the other side, and it's their right to it's their religion right. And in a democracy, good debate is important in maintaining public trust in the system. But we have always maintained that, well, let me say a few more. Gang wars have been significantly reduced. We have today have 2024, at the beginning, there was 244 active gangs. So far this year, we have only identified 106 active gangs. We have seen 27 convictions in some 5 gang trials, including our famous Klansman trial. Right? No problem. In a democracy, we expect any government in power to take some steps, but we executed. We built the force. There are 5 gang matters before the courts. There are 5 gang matters before the court. All right. Right person talking. 3 gang members, there are 5 gang matters before the court, and 3 are near going to the court, and overall there are 64 under active investigation. When they are under investigation, Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, they tend to get quieter, move out, disperse, and therefore doing less damage. At the moment, there are a total of 164 gang members who have been charged with predicate offenses. Several large gangs have been disrupted. Of course, the critical Klansman group is noted. One order is quiet. And of course, the Stonecrusher group a month ago, we have certainly just removed, disappeared from the scene. We have also, I'd like to indicate that the police have picked up several contract killing syndicates. But we accept and agree that the homicide rate is still too high.
Yes, yes.
Unacceptable.
Yes.
Unacceptable.
It is being carried out largely by drive-by shooting, mostly shooting on the road. Besides domestic issues where conflicts take place, as unfortunately happened, and I comment on it later, note the tragic killing of one student yesterday in a Catholic college, not a government school. The week before, I visited another one in Westmoreland where the student was shot outside the gate. Nonetheless, despite of what is happening, we are trending this year 15% decline in the homicide rate up to today, following an 8% reduction. I want to point out Mr. President, that, Mr. Speaker, not being contentious, but I have to note again, if we had used the full force of the legislation at the state of public emergency in the last 2 years,
Yes.
while we're building the force to where it is today,
Yes.
we would have saved hundreds of lives.
Mark, block it.
We would have saved lives.
Mark, block
And
it.
now the force is where it used to be, with a full strength,
Yes.
equipment and tools to operate.
Yep.
They are showing they can
Yeah,
take
we
care of
have
the job.
saved lives.
Right? And we are persisting with our investment, not finished. We are continuing to look at legislation, and we look towards ensuring the training and the facilities are in place to ensure our police force will have the ability to deal with the challenges out there. Later, before the middle of the year, we will in fact add some more transportation while the continuing development of the force, communication, and police station continue. And we are looking at ensuring we have enough officers. Well, getting to another challenge, we'll be training more officers to ensure we maintain our level, and maybe for a specific reason, take on a little expansion in the force as we see some areas of the community policing needing expansion and strengthening.
Here, here.
The administration has been consistent in its commitment to strengthen the police force.
Yes.
We know we took a political risk, but the country is reaping the benefits, and we will reap the benefits. We have said from day one, if we strengthen the police force, provide the legislation, and give the tools to fight crime,
Yeah, man.
as carry out the social investment, the efforts would converge and we begin to get a sustainable
plan.
reduction in crime. Not an erratic reduction, not the hunter squads that were reported in early days. They drive around, kill a few gangsters and call it a crime plan. This is a structured policy and program to improve public order, reduce violence, and restore safety in our society.
Sustainable policy.
It is indeed, we made a statement many years ago. It's of interest, and I'll refer to it, Mr. Speaker, that some of the traditional so-called progressives are changing their tune, and I maybe invite the members on that side to take a little ride or read than what they do at Hope Road. I think I'll refer to it later. But there's an article in what you might call the most sensitive part of that newspaper, news operator on North Street, the financial leaner, by two distinguished professors, which indicate clearly that the challenge you face in Latin America is that some have seen crime as a matter of poverty, and that security is not the issue they should. And so clearly that if we intend to get successful development, we have to combine the two things. And it's a challenge both ways. In fact, I read from one of it. The problem with this approach is that under current conditions, crime is sometimes motivated not by status, is motivated not more by status than by hunger, by desire to gain quick access to wealth and luxury without having to work for its criminals represent a perversion of the system, which in a way that illicit markets think of drugs, trafficking, prostitution, etc., are a perversion of the capital and labor markets. Security must be part of what Caribbean and Latin America's developed that effectively. Designing such a strategy and delivering the security many Latin American and Caribbean countries crave is perhaps the most difficult challenge facing many of the region's governments, but it is the most important one. This government took that challenge seriously and has designed
Yes.
a security policy to strengthen the security forces
Yes.
while seeking to invest in this. So, Madam Speaker, thank for the time. I'm going to look at, not only I've indicated clearly that the strengthening of the police force, our security force, the JDF, Coast Guard, PICA, etc., is beginning to impact on our criminal activity.
Comprehensive.
We will complete whatever is necessary, even if it takes necessary to do so in the third term. We're quite comfortable
Yes.
in doing it. But let me clarify, Mr. Speaker. The Ministry of National Security is not a social service ministry, but we have a responsibility to coordinate government's social investment program in vulnerable communities.
Yes.
Let me repeat that. We are not taking a social service portfolio onto the ministry. But we have a responsibility to coordinate the government's response in the vulnerable communities. And in doing that, we are building a system that will demonstrate sustainability and transformation that can be scaled at any time to cover the wider areas. The role that I might say I'm acting in a dual roles as the Minister of National Security and as the Prime Minister is the titular head of the City Business Group, and he has given me that responsibility, Deputy Prime Minister. I now function in both roles as the Minister of National Security and as Deputy to coordinate the transforming investment in social volatile communities. In order to effect social, cultural, and behavior changes, we have to ensure sustainable social transformation.
Yeah.
It cannot be done by NGOs. It cannot be done by ad hoc policy. There has to be a coordinated, effective activity to ensure social, cultural, and behavior changes to ensure sustainable social transformation. It therefore requires that institutions that serve the communities are resourced and coordinated. The institutions that serve the poor must be the best. Vulnerable communities not only need changes in terms of roads, water supply, land titling, zinc fence removal, and garbage collection. That is necessary and essential in the environment. But they need the best social service from the ministries and agencies of government, such as the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, Education and Health, and the Social Development Commission and other agencies relating to these volatile communities. Yes. These entities need to be coordinated, need coordinated collaboration in order to ensure increased efficiency, and that the resources that they have do not reach those who are in real need and not those who seek to take advantage of government inefficiencies. I repeat, as Mr. Speaker, it needs to be managed and directed that the very needy, the poor, the ones who are in the worst shape, will get the resources and not those who seek to take advantage of government inefficiencies.
Yep. Here, here.
Our review of previous efforts in social intervention shows that a significant amount of funds were spent on parallel staffing and consultancies. In fact, on some of the flagship programs, we saw up to 70% of the funding going into personnel, not to those who are poor and needy. This approach, unlike the old method, this old approach depends on projects. We are now moving coordinated government response, which will ensure transformation and sustainability. The objective is now to strengthen and increase the efficiency of the institutions of government that serve our challenged and volatile communities. Mr. Speaker, we have a solid base and we have a framework we can operate objectively and efficiently we have to use. The Planning Institute of Jamaica has an objective set of instruments to measure the volatility and vulnerability of any community in Jamaica. We recall that as far back as in the early 2000s, initiated a community renewal program. The 100 most vulnerable communities were identified across the island. Mr. Speaker, this is an objective analysis of critical communities. There's no bias involved. No attempt to look at whatever their political culture is or whatever whether they have in the politics or none at all, or they're organized of faith or otherwise, what church they go to. A set of instruments that is designed to examine the vulnerability of those communities, objectively done by professionals who understand this kind of activity. Poverty, education levels, employment levels, single parents, and a number of other factors which maybe should bring the next publication to Parliament. It's an objective analysis of our critical communities. Ongoing situation analysis, however, allows for the periodic updating of this list, incorporating new communities and remove those from programs that have evolved into a safer community based on the activities of the government. Our partners in the audience have been, in an area they have shown a lot of interest in, have been very supportive. We are now working, however, on a number of communities with emphasis on zones of special operation to ensure the effective coordination and collaboration among the various government agencies. We have, in order to ensure success, we need a strong government structure. So, Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, agencies of government tend to work in silos. It is one of the risks we face, not only inefficiency, but every government wants to have its own flag and get its own stripes. The role of government is to serve the people. not to show how good we are in videos. But it's a challenge. I think it came out of the fact that it's a time to when we still have a tight budget, but when the budget is even tighter, they held on to little. The biblical story, the one who got two talents went and hide them. The man who had 12 was willing to invest and share. And it's a story that has meaning to it. Governments would have little money, they like to show what little they have and keep it to themselves. But to ensure effective social transformation, agents of government that work in the social sector have to cooperate.
Yeah.
That's the only way we can ensure efficiency. As a result of this, the Citizen Security Business Group was established on the instruction of the Prime Minister, of which he is the titular head. And that group consists of the Financial Secretary, all permanent secretaries, the heads of the relevant agencies such as Jamaica Social Investment Fund, Heart and STA, the Planning Institute of Jamaica, the Jamaica Defense Force, the Commissioner of Police, Director General of Major Organized Crime Unit, Major Organized and Anti-Corruption Agency, and of course the PIOJ and other agencies. The group is supported by the Cabinet Office through the Cabinet Secretary and the Office of the National Security. Mr. Speaker, the CSBG is the nearest we will ever get to reflect a whole of government approach to any activity in the history of this country. We meet on a quarterly basis and review the activities. It was the instruction and requirement of the Ministry of Finance that every ministry should establish for themselves a citizen security plan line item. I think the impact of last year's compensation review did not lead to full implementation.